There's a moment, right before a woman falls for you, where everything is quiet. No words, no flirting, no clever lines, just energy. That moment is either the turning point or the end. Most men miss it. They keep talking, they chase, they fill the silence with jokes or compliments. But a man who understands seduction knows the truth. What you communicate without saying a word is 10 times more powerful than what you say out loud. She doesn't fall for you because of your looks. She doesn't fall for you because of your wallet or your status or even your charm. She falls when she feels something she can't explain. A presence, a subtle tension, a magnetic force that pulls her in without force or pressure. And here's the secret. That force is psychological dominance, not dominance as in control, but emotional certainty, calm, stillness, the kind of energy that makes her instinctively feel, this man is different. If you've ever watched James Bond walk into a room, you've seen it. If you've ever read The Game by Neil Strauss, you'll remember how Mystery walked into clubs dressed like a rock star. Before saying a word, women were curious, interested, leaning in. It's not about being loud. It's about what your presence says before your mouth even opens. And here's the trick most men don't know. When you master your inner world, she feels it in hers. That's what creates the pull. That's what makes her fall. Now let me break this down into something you can use. Step by step, tangible, actionable, psychological. Because theory is great, but what you need is transformation. Let's start with the foundation. Most men live in reaction. You look at her lips, she looks away. You compliment her, she pulls back. You chase, she runs. You invest, she doubts. Every move you make is a reaction to her. And the moment she feels that you're orbiting her world, you become invisible. But a high-value man doesn't react. He observes, he notices, and he chooses not to move. Imagine this. You're in a bar. She walks by. Stunning, confident. Every guy looks. Most men turn, follow with their eyes, shift their posture, try to catch her attention. You stay still. You don't even move your head. Your eyes glance briefly, then return to your drink or your thoughts. But here's the twist. You know she saw you. And even if she didn't consciously notice it, her subconscious mind did. Because stillness, in a world full of frantic energy, is magnetic. Stillness says, I don't need anything from you. Stillness says, I've seen beauty before. Stillness says, I'm the center of my own gravity. This is the psychological trick most men never learn. Silent signals of value. According to evolutionary psychology, women are wired to detect subtle cues of status, confidence, and mating value, long before they process words or logic. It's primal. It bypasses her critical thinking. It's like an emotional whisper straight to her instincts. When you walk slow, you send a message. When you pause before answering, you send a message. When you hold eye contact just a second longer than what's comfortable, you send a message. And these messages say far more than compliments ever could. Neil Strauss called it inner game. Mystery called it peacocking with intention. Robert Greene calls it presence. In The Art of Seduction, he describes it as an aura, a gravitational field that makes people lean toward you without knowing why. But it all boils down to this. Women fall for the man who feels like a mystery they want to solve. Not the man who explains himself. Not the man who brags, boasts, or begs for attention. The man who knows who he is, who doesn't chase validation, who can stand in silence and still be unforgettable. Now let me ask you, have you ever had a moment where a woman stared at you just a second too long, but you didn't say anything back? You just let the tension hang in the air, and something inside her shifted. That's the moment I'm talking about. It's not always loud. It's not always obvious, but it's always powerful. In that pause, where no words are spoken, you let her imagination fill the blanks. And imagination is the most seductive tool of all. Think of it like this. The mind is addicted to what it can't understand. That's why the man who talks less, reveals less, and moves slower becomes more attractive. Because every time she looks at him, she wonders, what's he thinking? What's he feeling? Why isn't he reacting to me like the others? And that wonder turns into interest. Interest turns into fascination. Fascination turns into attraction. But here's the key. It only works if you're not faking it. If you're acting like you're confident while your nervous system is screaming for attention, she'll feel the incongruence. Women have radar for this. She may not be able to explain it, but she'll feel it. She'll sense that something's off, that you're pretending to be something you're not. That's why this psychological trick doesn't start with her. It starts with you. You have to rewire the way you show up, your breathing, your eye contact, your tone, your energy. You have to become the man who doesn't need to chase, because he knows he's the prize. And once that belief sinks into your body, not your words, not your mind, but into your presence, and she'll feel it too. You'll walk into a room and eyes will follow. Not because you're flashy, but because your vibe says, I belong here, and I'm not trying to impress anyone. That's the shift. And in the next section, I'm going to show you exactly how to train this presence, step by step. From your posture, to your breath, to the exact moments when silence is your most seductive weapon. But first, let's anchor this lesson. When you speak less, she feels more. When you chase less, she follows more. When you master silence, she fills it with curiosity. And that, my friend, is how you make her fall, without saying a single word. There's something almost ancient about the power of silence. Before language, before social media, before dating apps, connection happened through presence, eye contact, breathing, energy. And here's where things get deeper. Women don't fall in love with what you say. They fall in love with how they feel around you. You could say all the right things. You could have perfect game, polished lines, studied text threads. But if your energy makes her feel anxious, pressured, or uncertain, you lose her. Fast. But when you make her feel safe in your silence, when your calm becomes her calm, you tap into something primal. It's called emotional attunement, and it's one of the most underrated, misunderstood tools in seduction. Let me explain. Imagine this. You're sitting across from her. There's a moment of pause. You could fill it with a joke, a compliment, a story. Most men would. But instead, you just sit back. You breathe. You look at her. Not intensely, not like you're trying to impress, but with still curiosity. She feels it. Because in that moment, you're doing something rare. You're giving her space to feel you. Most guys are so caught up in what to say, they forget to let the woman feel the energy between you. This is where silence becomes psychological. It becomes a container, a space where desire can grow. In music, the silence between the notes is what gives rhythm. In seduction, the silence between words is what builds tension. When you become comfortable with that pause, with that gap, you create a field where she can imagine, project, and invest. Think about that word, invest, because the more she invests emotionally, wondering what you're thinking, why you're not chasing, why you're so calm, the more she starts to bond. This is backed by neuroscience. The Zeigarnik effect explains how the brain remembers and fixates on unfinished experiences. When she can't quite read you, when she doesn't have all the answers, her mind comes back to you. Again and again. She thinks about your glance, your posture, the way you smiled slightly but didn't explain why. That mystery becomes obsession. But here's the twist. For this to work, you need emotional composure. You can't just pretend to be mysterious. You have to actually be grounded. Let me give you a metaphor. You are the flame. She is the moth. But if your flame flickers, if it dances too fast, if it burns out of control, she gets nervous. She flies away. Your job is to burn steady, controlled, calm, magnetic. That's the essence of masculine energy. And when she feels it, her feminine energy has permission to open, to explore, to fall. This is where ancient seducers got it right. Casanova didn't rush. He lingered. He allowed moments to stretch. He understood that patience is seductive. Fast seduction is surface level. Real seduction unfolds like a slow burn. And nothing ignites that fire more than a man who is at ease in stillness. Let's get even more practical. If you want to radiate that psychological impact without speaking, here's what to work on. 1. Eye contact without expectation. Look at her not like you're waiting for a response, but as if you already know her, as if you're reading a book you enjoy, not a test you're trying to pass. 2. Relaxed breathing. The breath is the language of the nervous system. When you slow yours down, hers follows. She starts to mirror your state, and if your state is grounded, so is the connection. 3. Subtle smirk. The smirk says, "I know something you don't." It's not a full smile. It's not arrogance. It's mystery. It says, "You're comfortable with desire, and that makes you desirable." 4. Controlled movement. Every motion you make, your hand on your glass, your posture when you lean back, the way you tilt your head, should be intentional. Slow is sexy. Stillness is power. Now let me show you one of the most powerful micro behaviors you can use, the intentional pause. You ask her a question, she answers. You don't respond right away. You just look at her for a second. Let the silence sit. Then, you nod. Maybe say something soft like, "Interesting," or nothing at all. That pause? It's electric. Because in that moment, she starts to wonder, what is he thinking? Did I say something wrong? Or right? Does he like me? Is he analyzing me? That micro moment of psychological tension creates layers. Layers of complexity. And complexity for a woman is addictive. Now let's tie this to something even deeper. Every woman, consciously or not, is looking for a man who can hold space. Not just hold her physically, but hold the energy between you. And when you can sit in silence with her, not awkward silence, but aware, present silence, you show her that you're that man. You're not rushing. You're not seeking approval. You're not operating from scarcity. You're already whole. And your silence proves it. That's why this psychological trick isn't about manipulating her. It's about mastering yourself. You become the mirror, the steady mountain, the unshakable presence in a chaotic world. And in a sea of men trying too hard, a man who speaks volumes with silence becomes unforgettable. In the next segment, I'll go even deeper. I'll show you how to blend this silent presence with conversational timing, body language subtleties, and a specific look that instantly triggers curiosity in her subconscious. But remember this, every second you don't speak, she's reading you. And if what you project is calm power, if what you radiate is unspoken strength, if your silence is more confident than most men's words, then you don't need to chase her. She'll come to you. Let's take it further. You already understand the power of silence, the gravity of stillness, the seduction in calm energy. But now, it's time to weaponize your body language. Because whether you realize it or not, your body is speaking louder than your voice ever could. And when it speaks with confidence, dominance, and relaxed control, it creates instant polarity. Polarity is the engine of attraction, masculine and feminine, stillness and movement, structure and flow. The moment she feels that polarity, her instincts wake up. So let's sharpen your tools. First, your posture. Straight spine, shoulders relaxed, chest open, not puffed, not arrogant, just grounded. Your chin slightly raised, never tilted down. Feet planted, slow gestures, zero fidgeting. This posture doesn't just look powerful, it makes you feel powerful. It tells your nervous system, I'm safe, I don't need to prove anything. And that shifts your energy. Now let's talk about your eyes. If there's one thing that can melt a woman's defenses without a single word, it's a controlled, grounded gaze. Not a stare, not creepy intensity, but awareness, focus. A gaze that says, I see you, and I'm not in a rush. There's a trick I call the lock and drift. Here's how it works. You make eye contact, hold it, just a beat longer than most men would. Then, you look away slowly, downward or to the side. No rush. That slow drift, it tells her, I'm not seeking validation, I'm choosing where my attention goes. It communicates high status. And here's the deeper psychology. When you look away slowly, instead of breaking eye contact quickly like most men, you demonstrate emotional control. And that control, it's deeply arousing to the feminine brain. Because it suggests something rare. You're not afraid of her beauty. You're not caught. You're not overwhelmed. You've seen beauty before, and you're not intimidated by it. Let that sink in. Now, what about touch? Here's something most men don't understand. The most seductive touch is the one that doesn't happen yet. It's the tension before the touch that creates desire. When you stand close enough for her to feel your presence, but far enough to leave a gap. When your hand hovers near hers, but doesn't make contact. When your fingers brush something near her body, but not her body itself. That anticipation becomes electricity. Why? Because the mind loves to imagine what hasn't happened yet. And the gap between desire and fulfillment is where obsession lives. In Robert Greene's Art of Seduction, he explains that withholding satisfaction creates far more hunger than giving it too early. The mystery builds, the imagination inflames, and most importantly, she starts to lean in. Because when you're not trying to touch her, not trying to close the distance, not trying to speed up the moment, she feels safe. And in that safety, her attraction has room to breathe. You become the man who's in control, not just of himself, but of the entire dynamic. Let's add another layer, proximity management. This is something advanced seducers understand. It's not just about what you do, it's about where you place yourself. When you enter a room, don't rush toward her. Place yourself in her peripheral vision. Allow her to notice you first. When you speak, don't stand face to face right away. Stand slightly at an angle. It creates intrigue. It feels less confrontational, more natural, more seductive. And when you do move closer, do it slowly, gradually, as if pulled by gravity, not intention. That slow progression builds sexual tension without physical pressure. And that's the key. Make her feel the desire without feeling pursued. Let's make this real with an example. You're at a lounge, dim lights, music in the background. She's nearby. You're not staring, you're not approaching, but you're aware of her. You move confidently. You pour your drink slowly. You laugh softly at something someone says, not too loud, not too eager. She glances at you once, you don't react. She glances again. This time you meet her gaze, just briefly. Then you look away, but not because you're nervous, because you're in control. You've just planted a seed in her mind, and as the night goes on, that seed grows. Who is he? Why isn't he chasing? Why does he feel so different? Now here's where most men screw it up. They finally get her attention and then they flood the moment with energy. They lean in, they talk too much, they try to impress. You stay grounded. You use pauses when you speak. You let silence hang between words. You don't fill space, you own it. Because here's a truth most men never learn. The man who can sit in silence and still feel powerful is dangerous. And women can feel it. She may not be able to describe why she's intrigued, why she keeps thinking about you, why you've gotten under her skin. But her body knows, because your energy is rare, unhurried, undisturbed, unchained. And in a world of men begging for attention, a man who doesn't need it becomes unforgettable. In the next part, we'll unlock how to anchor this energy into your daily life, how to make this your natural state, not a performance, but your default setting. So it's not a trick, it's who you are. And when this becomes who you are, you won't need lines, you won't need to chase, you won't even need to speak, because your silence will say it all. So now you know, it's not the words, it's not the clever lines, the compliments, or the rehearsed responses. It's who you are when you say absolutely nothing. That's what leaves a mark. The way you hold eye contact, the calm in your breath, the stillness in your posture, the tension you allow without rushing to release it. That's what she feels, that's what she remembers. That's what makes her fall, not quickly, but deeply. Because in a world filled with noise, the man who masters silence becomes the message. You become the memory that lingers. The man who didn't need to speak to be unforgettable. The one who stood grounded, composed, and unbothered. And now, the choice is yours. You can keep chasing, keep talking, keep doing what every other man does. Or, you can become the kind of man who draws her in without effort. The kind of man whose silence speaks louder than another man's entire pitch. If this message stirred something in you, it's because the truth is already in you. You don't need to become someone else, you just need to return to the man you were before the world told you to beg for attention. Start now, walk slower, speak less, look deeper, and let your presence do the work. And if you're ready to keep sharpening that presence, if you're serious about learning the deeper psychology of attraction, dominance, and influence, then listen carefully. This channel is for men like you, men who don't settle for surface-level advice, men who want power that runs deep, Men who want to attract, not through tricks, but through truth. If this resonated with you, let me know. And if you're walking this path, don't do it in silence. Your voice matters too. So drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you know someone who's ready to rise, share this with him. Let's make this message reach the men who need it most. Because when you change your energy, you don't just attract women, you shift your entire life. And the world notices. Silence is only powerful when it comes from a man who no longer needs to speak to be seen. Be that man.